Aaron Vale had always lived far from the crowded worlds of the core. On this small, lonely planet, the wind whispered across the plains, carrying dust and the faint hum of the machines he had built. Night had fallen, painting the sky in deep blue, pierced only by a few distant stars. Aaron liked the silence. It made his work feel alive, and it kept the dangers of the galaxy far away, or so he thought. That night, however, something was different. While fixing a broken sensor outside his small shelter, he noticed a shadow moving at the edge of the clearing. It was huge. Much larger than any creature he had seen before, and its movement was strange. It didn't run or fly, it walked with a kind of heavy, careful grace as if it didn't want to disturb the ground. Aaron froze. His heart beat faster. Dragons were real, but he had never seen one. Stories told of their silver scales shining like stars, of their fire that could melt stone, and of their ancient strength. Most humans who met a dragon never lived to tell the tale. But this shadow, it wasn't attacking. It was approaching slowly, cautiously, almost humbly. And then he saw it. The silver glint under the moonlight, the enormous wings folded against its body, and the eyes that shone with a sadness Aaron had never seen in any creature before. He stepped back into his shelter, unsure if he should hide or run. But before he could decide, a low sound reached him. It was a sound he had never heard, a soft, sorrowful cry, like the wind itself was weeping. Then he saw the source. The dragon's massive claws held something delicate. A small, weak glow flickered in the dragon's hands. It was a dragon cub, barely alive. Its scales were faintly luminescent, and its tiny wings trembled. Aaron's mind struggled to comprehend what he saw. The mighty dragon, feared across galaxies, was carrying her own child to a human. The dragon knelt, lowering her enormous head until her snout almost touched the ground. Her eyes locked on Aaron's, and the tears that streaked her silver face sparkled under the moon. Aaron's fear melted into something else: astonishment, confusion, and an undeniable urge to help. The stories he had heard about dragons were about power and destruction. None mentioned care. None mentioned trust. And yet, here she was, begging a human with her eyes. Aaron swallowed and stepped forward slowly, holding his hands out. I can help, he said. His voice sounded small, almost foolish, but the dragon's gaze did not falter. She shifted slightly, lowering the cub closer to him as if she wanted him to take it. The little glow flickered again, and a faint shiver ran through its tiny body. Time felt suspended. One wrong move could end everything. Aaron knew dragons could kill with a single strike, yet he felt no hostility. Only hope. He kneeled carefully and reached for the cub. The moment his fingers touched its soft scales, a warmth spread through him. The cub's tiny body was cold, its breath shallow. Aaron's mind raced. He had studied human medicine, mechanics, and robotics, but dragon biology was a mystery. Still, he had one advantage. Humans had learned to heal what even powerful beings could not, using patience, observation, and technology. He needed to act fast. Aaron gently laid the cub on a soft blanket he had made from woven fibers of local plants. He opened a small kit containing diagnostic tools and simple life support nanobots designed for injured humans. He wasn't sure if they would work on dragons, but he had nothing else. He activated the devices, and soft blue lights hummed and flickered over the cub's body. Slowly, its breathing began to stabilize. Aaron exhaled, relief washing over him like a tide. The dragon mother watched silently. She did not move, did not roar, and did not attack. She simply knelt and observed, her silver eyes reflecting the blue glow of the machines. Every time the cub shivered, she trembled, and her sorrowful cries echoed across the plains. Aaron had never seen love so raw, so unguarded. This was not the fierce predator the legends told about. This was a mother desperate to save her child. Hours passed. The cub began to respond. Its glow strengthened, its small wings twitched with life, and its eyes slowly opened. A tiny whine escaped its mouth. The dragon mother's tears grew brighter, almost as if she was crying light. Aaron smiled softly. He had never thought he would witness a miracle, but here it was, alive in his small shelter. Then came the question that hung in the air like smoke. Why had the dragon come to a human at all? Aaron had no answer. Perhaps the universe itself had chosen him. Perhaps dragons remembered something about humans that other beings had forgotten. Or maybe this was the beginning of something greater. Whatever the reason, one fact was clear. The bond forming here was unusual, remarkable, and dangerous to some who might discover it. Aaron carefully spoke to the dragon mother. I will keep your cub safe. I promise. Nothing will hurt him. His voice was gentle but firm. The dragon lowered her massive head even closer as if understanding. She nuzzled her cub gently, and then turned her eyes fully on Aaron, studying him as if weighing a life-and-death decision. For a moment he felt the weight of the galaxy in her gaze. He was just a human, small and fragile. And yet, in that moment he was the most important being in her life. The night passed slowly, filled with the quiet hum of machines and the occasional low, sorrowful murmur from the dragon. Aaron worked tirelessly, tending to the cub, adjusting machines and monitoring every tiny movement. He felt exhaustion gnawing at him, but he could not stop. To let the cub die now would not just break a mother, it would break something older, something wiser than humans could imagine. By dawn, the first soft light of the planet touched the plains. The cub, now stable, opened its eyes fully. Its small glow pulsed in rhythm with its breathing. Aaron smiled, a mix of pride and wonder. The dragon mother shifted her massive wings and lowered her head in a gesture that was almost bowing. She had accepted a human, and for a creature of her power, that was astonishing. Aaron could not help but speak again. "He will live. Thanks to you trusting me." The dragon's silver eyes softened. In a quiet, almost human gesture, she leaned closer to the cub and whispered something only they could hear. The moment was sacred. No words could capture the gravity of what had happened. The human had crossed the line of fear and legend, and in doing so had touched a bond older than stars. And then, without warning, she spread her wings slightly, letting Aaron see the span of silver and shadow that had once terrified entire civilizations. But instead of fear he felt awe. He understood something he never had before. Power alone was meaningless. Compassion, trust, and courage, that was what could change the galaxy. And tonight, it had begun with a human and a dragon mother, a fragile cub, and a decision that could ripple through time. Aaron did not know what the future held. Perhaps dragons would come to see humans differently. Perhaps the galaxy would notice. For now he only knew this: the impossible had happened at his door. A dragon wept for her child and trusted a human to save it. And Aaron Vale had kept that trust. The wind shifted, carrying whispers of the plains across the night. Somewhere, far in the stars, things were about to change. Aaron watched the dragon cub, Karen, breathing steadily under the soft blue glow of his machines. The tiny creature's chest rose and fell with life, but Aaron knew this was only the beginning. Dragons were not humans. Their bodies were ancient, built to survive for thousands of years, yet fragile in ways humans could not see. He needed to understand what was wrong fast before it became too late. Malthrixa, the mother, remained close by. She lay on the ground, her silver scales shimmering in the faint light. She did not speak, but her eyes followed Aaron's every move, filled with hope and fear at the same time. She did not roar. She did not demand. She simply waited, trusting him with her most precious life. Aaron examined Karen carefully. His human diagnostic tools could only tell him so much. The cub's body was weak, but not from injury. The tiny heart beat unevenly, and strange energy readings flickered across his scales. Aaron frowned. "This isn't trauma. This is something else, something deeper," he muttered. He tapped on a small holographic display, comparing readings with ancient dragon biology records he had managed to recover from old libraries. Humans had never studied live dragons in detail, they were too dangerous, but fragments of knowledge existed. Aaron realized the truth. "You're suffering from stellar radiation imbalance," he said softly. He looked at Malthrixa. "It's not a wound. Your body can't cope with the new suns humans built. Your species was made for the old stars, not these artificial ones." The dragon lowered her head closer as if listening, understanding the words even though she could not speak them. Her eyes were filled with fear. Aaron could feel her worry like a weight in the air. She had carried her cub across deserts and cliffs, bringing him to a human because no other creature could save him. And now she was learning the truth: even her kind could not heal him alone. Aaron stood and moved to a small shelf where he kept experimental healing devices designed for deep space workers. They were simple human technology but capable of regulating energy, repairing cells, and stabilizing life in ways no one else could. He activated the machines, and soft blue beams of light danced across Karen's tiny body. The cub stirred weakly. "This might help," Aaron said. "It's not perfect, but it could stabilize him." Malthrixa watched closely, her enormous wings twitching nervously. She hissed softly, not in anger but in worry. She seemed to understand that this human's actions could either save her child or fail completely. Hours passed. Aaron worked tirelessly, adjusting energy levels, monitoring every heartbeat and watching the cub's reaction. His own body ached from exhaustion, but he did not stop. The cub's fragile glow flickered with every adjustment. Once it almost dimmed completely and Aaron's heart pounded. "Hold on, little one," he whispered. "You have to make it." Male Thrixa stayed silent, but her eyes never left him. She nudged the cub gently when he stirred, giving him comfort that only a mother could. The moment was strange. Here was a human touching a dragon child with delicate care, using machines to heal it, and the dragon watched without fear. This should have been impossible. Humans were weak. Humans were fragile. Dragons had always ruled. But this night the rules were broken. Aaron realized something important. Humans could not match dragons in strength, but they could do something dragons could not: adapt. They could understand, observe, and use tools to fix what nature or evolution had left behind. It was patience, not power, that mattered. Patience, care, and determination could save lives even the strongest species could not protect on their own. By sunrise, small changes became visible. Kewaren's tiny wings twitched more strongly, his glow pulsed steadily, and his chest rose with a calm rhythm. Male Thrixa let out a low vibrating sound, a sound that almost seemed like relief. Her silver scales reflected the rising sun, and Aaron realized she was crying again. Not tears of sadness this time, but of gratitude. Aaron knelt and studied the cub closely. "You're going to be okay," he said softly. "I just need a little more time." Male Thrixa lowered her head and nudged Aaron's shoulder gently, almost as if thanking him. She could not speak in words humans understood, but her gesture carried all the emotion in the galaxy. As the day went on, Aaron worked and Male Thrixa stayed. Other dragons might have been curious or aggressive, but she did not call her kind. She did not strike. She simply trusted a human to do what even her species could not. Aaron thought about how rare this moment was. Across all the stars, dragons and humans had never needed each other like this before. And yet, here it was, a moment that could change everything. Finally, after hours of careful adjustments, Kewaren's glow brightened steadily, and his small body moved with strength. He opened his eyes fully, looking around at the human and the mother dragon. His tiny gaze seemed to understand that he had been saved, that life had been extended by someone far smaller and weaker than himself, yet brave enough to try. Aaron smiled, exhausted but relieved. He had done it. Not by fighting, not by force, not by showing strength. He had done it by using knowledge, care, and patience. And the dragon mother knew it. She lowered her head to the ground, touching her nose lightly to Aaron's hand in a silent gesture of respect. A human had healed a dragon, and the impossible had been made real. Male Thrixa looked at the sky as if sensing something beyond this world. Her child was safe, but she knew the universe had changed. Humans were no longer irrelevant or fragile. They had done something only dragons themselves had once been able to do. Aaron looked at her and understood. He had not just healed a cub. He had built a bridge between two worlds that had always feared each other. As the sun rose higher, Karen began to move his tiny legs, exploring the soft blanket around him. Male Thrixa watched carefully, her wings twitching in cautious excitement. Aaron adjusted a small shield to protect the cub from the harsh sunlight. He had no idea what the next hours would bring, but for now, life was winning. He looked at Male Thrixa again. "Your child is alive because you trusted me. That trust, it's more than I can ever repay," he said softly. The dragon's silver eyes reflected the morning light, and Aaron thought he saw something he had never imagined. A sense of respect, not fear, passing between species. The day ahead would bring questions, challenges, and perhaps new dangers. But Aaron knew one thing. Tonight, the impossible had happened. A human had healed a dragon. And even the strongest creature in the galaxy had learned something new. Sometimes, survival depends not on strength but on courage, patience, and compassion. Aaron watched Kewaren move for the first time without struggle. The little dragon cub stretched its tiny wings and let out a weak, almost musical squeak. Male Thrixa, the mother, lowered her massive head to touch her child gently, letting her tears of relief glint in the sunlight. Aaron felt something shift in the air around them. He had saved a dragon, yes, but what he didn't know was how far the effects of this act would reach. High above the planet, sensors designed to detect energy fluctuations in space began to flare. The machines Aaron had used to stabilize Kewaren emitted pulses of life energy that were unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Other species, long accustomed to measuring dragons only by their destructive power, suddenly noticed something new. There was activity here. Something impossible was happening. A human had touched a dragon without being harmed. Reports spread across the stars. Alien scientists, starship patrols, and even distant dragon watchers detected the unusual energy spike. "Is it?" one voice whispered across comm channels. A human, healing a dragon? Aaron did not notice this at first. He was too focused on the cub, whose glowing scales pulsed steadily now, brighter than they had been in hours. The tiny creature moved with confidence, pushing itself forward on its small legs. Male Thrixa nudged him to explore the area, her enormous eyes shining with pride. For the first time she let herself relax. She had brought her cub to a human because she had no choice. She had hoped, and now she understood, humans were capable of things dragons could not imagine. The cub squeaked again, this time stronger. Its wings flapped clumsily, but they caught the light of the morning sun in glittering silver. Aaron smiled. "You're doing it, little one," he whispered. He had been worried that even human technology could not save such an ancient species. Yet here it was, happening before his eyes. Life had returned to a creature that should have faded forever. Male Thrixa shifted her massive wings, stretching in a motion that ruffled the ground around them. She lowered her head until her snout nearly touched Aaron's shoulder. In a gesture humans would call trust, she allowed him closer to the cub. He reached out and gently touched Kawarin, feeling warmth radiate from the small dragon's body. It was the first time in history that a human had held a dragon without fear, without injury, and without danger. The galaxy took notice. On a distant observation platform, an alien historian gasped as the sensors confirmed the readings. "The impossible is happening," the historian said. "Humans, healing dragons, alive, and unharmed." Others on the platform could not believe it. For centuries, dragons had been the most feared beings. Humans were always cautious, careful, and often the prey. And yet now, one human had done something no one had ever thought possible. Aaron continued his careful work. He adjusted the machines, keeping the energy flowing gently, without overloading the cub's delicate body. Kawarin's glow became steady, rhythmic, and warm. Male Thrixa hissed softly, a sound of comfort, and moved closer to Aaron. For the first time, the mother dragon and the human worked together, not as predator and prey, not as legend and myth, but as partners. The cub squeaked again and stumbled forward, pushing itself toward Aaron. It tried to climb onto his knee, wobbling but determined. Aaron laughed softly, a sound of pure joy. "You're stronger than I thought," he said. "You're going to make it." The cub's tiny eyes shone with life and curiosity. Male Thrixa watched him carefully, her massive tail curling protectively around both the cub and the human. Somewhere in the distance, other dragons felt the ripple of energy. Their senses, sharper than humans, detected the unusual calm, the life force flowing steadily from a human to a dragon child. They approached cautiously, curious but cautious. This had never happened before. They had always believed humans were fragile, weak, and irrelevant. Now the energy and life around Aaron and the cub proved otherwise. The first elder dragon arrived, a huge silver beast named Zorinth, who had lived for over 1,000 years. He observed the scene silently. Humans had never been allowed near a dragon cub. He saw the cub alive, Male Thrixa calm, and Aaron unafraid. His eyes narrowed with disbelief. "What is this?" he whispered, not for humans to hear but for other dragons. "A human, healing, a dragon?" Aaron did not notice Zorinth at first. He was fully focused on the cub, who now opened its mouth in a tiny squeak, almost like a song. Male Thrixa let out a low, vibrating sound of approval, which echoed across the plains. Aaron felt the vibration through the ground and realized, the dragon was communicating her approval, her relief, and perhaps her respect. Hours passed. The cub grew stronger, its tiny wings flapping steadily now. Male Thrixa allowed Aaron to lift the cub into his arms gently, and she did not resist. The gesture was extraordinary. She had given him the most important gift any dragon could: trust. A human had earned it. A human had shown that compassion could match strength, and that life could be saved by care, not fear. The galaxy would remember this moment. Signals from distant worlds picked up the energy flows, and beings of all kinds speculated what it meant. "Humans," a distant alien whispered, "might be more than we thought." Others remained silent, staring at their sensors, trying to understand how one human could accomplish something no dragon or machine had ever done. Aaron felt a quiet pride. He had not wanted fame nor recognition. He only wanted to save a life. Yet he realized that in doing so, he had changed something much bigger. He had proven that humans were not just weak creatures of flesh. They were capable of hope, determination, and acts of compassion that even the strongest beings could not imagine. As the sun set, Kawarin nestled safely in Male Thrix's claws, his tiny eyes blinking sleepily. Aaron adjusted the final settings on his machines and stepped back. The mother dragon looked at him once more, her eyes reflecting a mixture of awe and gratitude. He had done the impossible and the galaxy would never forget it. High above, Zorinth and other dragons disappeared into the skies, spreading the tales silently among themselves. Word would travel faster than any human fleet, faster than any message. A human had healed a dragon. The act alone had rewritten history, changed expectations, and perhaps begun a new era where humans and dragons could exist as allies rather than enemies. Aaron watched the mother and cub in silence. He did not need applause or recognition. He had witnessed something extraordinary. He had touched the impossible. And he knew, deep in his heart, that the galaxy had shifted in ways that no one could yet measure. And far beyond the planet, across the endless stars, whispers began spreading. Humans could do the unexpected. Humans could change fate. Humans could heal even what dragons thought beyond repair. The days passed slowly on Aaron Vale's small frontier planet. Karen, the dragon cub, grew stronger every day. His tiny wings stretched and flexed, his silver scales shining in the sunlight, and his eyes filled with curiosity and life. Male Thrixa watched him constantly, her massive wings wrapped protectively around him. She had once been terrified of humans, but now she looked at Aaron differently. He had proven himself worthy of trust, of something far older and deeper than fear. Far away across the stars, dragons were talking. Zorinth, the ancient dragon elder, had returned to the hidden clans to tell what he had seen. A human had healed a dragon cub. Not with power, not with fire or claws, but with patience, care, and understanding. Many dragons refused to believe it at first. Humans were small, fragile, and weak. They were prey in the old stories. And yet, here was proof of something impossible. The elders called a council, a gathering that had not happened in centuries. Dragons from every corner of the galaxy flew to witness the event. They circled the planet high in the sky, their silver, golden, and dark scales reflecting the light of distant stars. Below, Aaron did not know that the Watchers were coming. He was busy adjusting simple machines and monitoring Karen, who squeaked and tumbled on the soft ground. Male Thrixa stayed close, alert to every sound. Then the sky darkened as the dragons approached. The wind roared around Aaron's shelter. He froze, expecting the worst. Dragons were enormous, powerful, and unpredictable. They had never shown mercy to humans. Yet Male Thrixa stepped forward, placing herself between Aaron and the incoming dragons. She lowered her head, letting out a long, vibrating hum. It was not a roar. It was a signal, a warning. The dragons circled above, and then one descended. Zorinth, the elder who had first seen Aaron heal Karen. His eyes were wide with disbelief. He landed softly on the plains, keeping a careful distance. Male Thrixa moved closer to him, letting the cub crawl toward the open space between them. Zorinth's gaze fell on Karen. The tiny dragon looked back at him, glowing steadily, his body strong. For a long moment there was silence. The air itself seemed to hold its breath. Dragons from every corner of the sky watched carefully, waiting. Then Zorinth spoke, his voice deep and echoing. "This is impossible," he said. "A human has healed what we thought only dragons could protect. Your child lives because of him." Male Thrixa hissed softly, affirming the words. Aaron stepped back, unsure what to do. He had never faced so many dragons at once, and yet he felt no fear. He realized that Male Thrixa's trust extended to him, and that he had a role to play in this moment. He took a step forward. "I only did what I could," he said softly. I wanted him to live." Zorinth tilted his massive head, studying him. "You risked your life to heal a dragon?" he asked. Aaron nodded. The elder dragons exchanged quiet sounds among themselves. Some murmured in disbelief. Others lowered their wings slightly as if to show respect. For centuries, humans had been seen as weak and unimportant. Now everything had changed. Finally, one of the dragons spoke, a female named Larintha, her scales shimmering like molten gold. "If a human can heal what dragons cannot, perhaps we have been wrong to fear them," she said. Her voice carried across the plains. "Perhaps they are not only fragile. Perhaps they are worthy." Male Thrixa stepped forward, touching her snout lightly to Aaron's shoulder. It was a gesture the dragons understood. She was presenting him not as a servant, not as prey, but as a creature worthy of respect. The other dragons hesitated, then slowly, one by one, bowed their heads. A signal of recognition. A choice. Zorintha's deep eyes softened. If humans can save our young, if they can show courage and care where dragons cannot, then perhaps we must reconsider our place in the galaxy. The other dragons murmured agreement. It was the first time in centuries that dragons had made a decision based not on power but on trust. Aaron could hardly believe what he was seeing. He had expected fear, aggression, maybe even a test of strength. Instead, the dragons were choosing him, choosing humanity over fear and tradition. The cub, Kewaran, crawled toward the human and mother, sensing the change. He squeaked softly, and Maelthrix's wings wrapped around him like a shield. The dragons began to speak among themselves in low, vibrating hums. They agreed silently that humans were no longer irrelevant. They had witnessed proof that humans could care, could adapt, and could act where dragons had failed. Some of the dragons who had once hunted humans now circled lower, their heads lowered in respect. Aaron realized that the galaxy had shifted. This was not just a moment of trust. This was a turning point. The dragons had chosen humanity. They had seen that strength alone did not define survival or greatness. Compassion, patience, and courage did. Humans had proven their worth. Maelthrixa nudged Aaron gently. He understood. She was telling him that the bond between dragons and humans had changed forever. It was no longer predator and prey. It was now a partnership. A possibility. The galaxy had witnessed a moment no one would forget. A human had healed a dragon, and dragons had chosen to honor that act. Above, the dragons rose together, forming a massive circle in the sky. Their wings shimmered in the light of the setting sun. Karen squeaked and stretched his tiny wings, learning the movements of his kind. Aaron smiled as he watched the cub. He understood that this was just the beginning. The galaxy would remember this day. And far beyond the frontier planet, across the vast emptiness of space, whispers began to spread. Stories of humans and dragons working together. Stories of trust, courage, and compassion that no weapon or machine could achieve. The galaxy was listening. Aaron Vale, a simple human engineer, had done something no one could imagine. He had healed a dragon, and in doing so, had earned the respect of the most powerful beings in the universe. The stars themselves seemed to shine brighter that night, as if acknowledging that a new era had begun. A time when humans and dragons could choose each other, not as enemies but as allies. And Maelthrixa, the silver dragon mother, nuzzled her cub, her eyes reflecting trust, gratitude, and the knowledge that the impossible had been achieved. Humanity had proven itself worthy, and the dragons had chosen to honor that choice. The frontier planet was quiet once more. Corin, the dragon cub, slept safely under the watchful gaze of his mother, Maelthrixa. Aaron Vale sat nearby, exhausted but smiling. The events of the past days had changed everything. What had started as a desperate moment, one dragon mother carrying her child to a human, had become something far greater. The galaxy had watched and it had learned. Aaron thought about the dragons in the sky, circling above when they had recognized his worth. He could still feel the vibrations of their wings, their hums of communication, and the weight of their ancient eyes on him. He had never wanted glory, but now he realized that the smallest actions, done with courage and care, could change the universe. One act of kindness had shifted the balance of fear and respect. Far across the stars the story spread. Starships carrying diplomats, scientists, and explorers picked up the unusual energy signals from Aaron's machines. Messages traveled faster than any fleet. Humans were no longer just a species of fragile beings. They were capable of bravery, wisdom, and understanding that could reach beyond what strength alone could achieve. Other civilizations began to reconsider their judgments. Humans were no longer merely inhabitants of the frontier. They had become symbols of hope and change. Back on the planet, Kyren began to stir. His tiny wings stretched again, stronger now, and he squeaked in a high musical sound. Maelthrixa nudged him gently, encouraging him to move. Aaron knelt down, letting the cub crawl into his lap. He felt the warmth of life pulsing through the little dragon, and he realized something simple yet profound. Life itself was fragile, but compassion made it stronger. Maelthrixa watched silently. She had carried her cub across deserts, cliffs, and lonely plains, and she had chosen a human to save him. That choice had been risky, almost unthinkable. Yet it had worked. Humans could do what dragons could not. They could care, observe, and act with patience and precision. They could heal not by strength but by love and understanding. The dragons who had observed from the skies now returned to their territories. But the lessons they carried would not be forgotten. Zorinth, the elder, had flown high into the outer systems, telling all the dragon clans what he had seen. They spoke of trust, patience, and the courage of one human. Other dragons listened, learning that power was not enough. True greatness lay in compassion, in action taken without expectation of reward. Aaron looked at Maelthrixa and Kyren. The cub now blinked, exploring the world with bright, curious eyes. His small wings twitched as if preparing for flight. Aaron felt proud, not of himself, but of what humans could do when they chose to act with care. The dragons had learned that humans were not just creatures of flesh, they were creatures capable of making a difference, capable of changing destiny with the simplest acts of courage. The frontier planet, once quiet and lonely, became a symbol of hope. Word spread among explorers and traders. The humans of this small world had shown the galaxy that even the most powerful beings could be saved by what humans had always done best: adapt, learn, and care. Ships traveled from distant systems, curious to witness the humans and dragons working together. But Aaron did not seek attention. He only wanted the cubs safe, the mother at peace, and the knowledge that life had been preserved. Kewarin began to move more confidently, climbing over Aaron's arms and nudging his face gently. Male Thrixa purred softly, a sound that vibrated through the ground. Aaron laughed quietly. "You're ready for the skies soon, little one," he said. The cub's tiny wings flapped, catching the sunlight, reflecting silver streaks across the plains. Aaron could feel the bond between them, and he knew it was not just between human and dragon. It was a bond that connected two species in a way the galaxy had never seen. The stars themselves seemed to notice the change. Observers on distant worlds watched as dragons and humans coexisted, showing that the old stories of fear and dominance were no longer the only truth. Humans had proven their value, not through war, not through conquest, but through action, trust, and care. The galaxy was learning a new lesson: strength is important, but compassion is greater. Male Thrixa shifted closer to Aaron, allowing him to touch her scales carefully. He felt the warmth and power of her body, yet also her trust. The moment was sacred. She had chosen humanity, and humanity had honored that choice. Aaron understood that this was more than saving a child. It was beginning a new era of understanding between species. Kewarin squeaked happily, exploring his world with newfound strength. Aaron smiled. He had learned something too. Heroism was not in fame or weapons, but in the small, quiet decisions to act when it mattered most. One human had made a difference. One choice had altered the course of the galaxy. And the dragons, who had once ruled through fear, now chose to respect and protect those who had shown courage. As night fell, the cub curled against his mother, and Aaron looked up at the stars. He knew the galaxy would carry the story of this day forever. It was not about power or dominance, it was about hope, trust, and the courage to act when no one else could. Humans had shown that they could rise to challenges that even dragons could not face alone. The galaxy, for the first time in centuries, had learned a new truth: humans were more than they seemed. They could heal what others thought beyond repair. They could act with compassion when it mattered most. They could earn the respect of being stronger and older than they were. And through a single act, life itself had been preserved. Aaron leaned back and watched Kewarin sleep under the silver glow of his scales. Male Thrix's massive head rested gently beside him. He felt peaceful. The frontier planet was quiet, but the universe beyond it would never forget this day. The stars had witnessed the impossible, and the galaxy had learned that humanity could be trusted, respected, and even loved by the greatest of beings. And as he looked at the sleeping cub, Aaron Vale realized one final truth: sometimes the smallest beings make the biggest difference, and the simplest acts of care can echo across the stars forever. The wind whispered across the plains. Somewhere far beyond, dragons spoke in low hums, spreading the story. Humans were no longer just humans. They were a force of hope. And the galaxy at last had learned.